purposeful living is exponentially more gratifying than just chasing a check or chasing fame or any other that dumb shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, the way the world looks different when you look at it through that lens, and every day becomes the most incredible day when you realize like you have you have the opportunity to, instead of I have to. Like outside of, you know, things that I got to do already.
What does a day in the life of Kardinal look like?
Never the same twice. It could be anything. It could be anything from, you know, I don't know, a plane to Europe, studio in New York, on a TV set.
Yeah.
These days it literally can be almost anything, which is kind of dope.
You like it that way?
Hell yeah. I wouldn't want to come to like the same place every day, sit at the same desk. No disrespect to to anybody whose reality that is, but it's
some people like that.
Yeah, not for me.
Yeah.
I'd go crazy.
You always like that, or is that something that you developed over time?
I mean, when you say always, I mean, remember I've been in the music business
Long time.
forever and a day, so I don't know what it's like. I thank God, like the only job that I had was at what's it called, DHS in telecom. That's the only job that I ever had, and I definitely quit there in 2 weeks. So is that I was like, nah, I'd rather be poor.
just walked out, did you?
Yeah, I was like, yep, I'm going on a break, not coming back though.
So if you weren't doing music and all the stuff that you do now, what would you be doing?
I don't know. Like, I literally have no idea.
It's not even an option. It's just not something you consider.
Nah, because it's like, all right, everything that I'm doing right now, music is kind of at the core of it all. It's the nucleus, you know what I'm saying? So when I do the stuff, as much fun as it is with Howie and the whole gang for Canada's Got Talent, it's like, it's still music that got me there. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't my love of fashion or anything else. You know what I mean? Like, first and foremost, it was my my participation and my expertise in music, you know what I mean, that initially got them intrigued to put me into the selection process. And it wasn't, you know what I'm saying, it wasn't something where they just called me one day, they're like, hey, you want to do this? Like, you know, I had to go through a pretty rigorous selection process.
Right.
But I think it was dope, you know what I mean, because it's like I was out of my comfort zone, and I think that's when the most growth happens, you know. But just kind of circling back to the initial question, like, I don't know what I would be doing. I know when I went to York, I took mass comm because my intent was to be a journalist of some sort at the time. So I think probably back then I saw myself like being on the 6 o'clock news or something like that. You know what I mean? Because it's like I was always exceedingly like, I did very well at oral presentations throughout high school and anything else. You know what I'm saying? So it's like at an early age I saw what certain strengths were. Music was something that we did for fun. I didn't actually think there was a career in it until I got to York, because it was around that time that how can I put it, because it was still like super early days. But give you guys a story. I remember we went to perform at Windsor University for Windsor Sports Weekend, and like back when I was in high school and university and all that, like Windsor Sports Weekend was the time. You know what I mean? Like it was just a crazy weekend. And I remember they wanted me to perform at the, you know, the big Saturday event or whatever. And I remember we had parked, you know what I'm saying, me and the crew, and we were walking as we usually did, where everybody else walks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you walk up the front to the main entrance. And for me, it was the first time, like, I'm walking, people are like, yo, that's Kardinal. It's like, yo, that person knows me? That's crazy. And then as I was walking, people were like, yo, that's Cardi. And I was like, you only get to experience that for the first time, one time, obviously. Yeah. So I still remember what I was wearing. I was wearing a custom Curtis James outfit. Shout out to Curtis James. He got me started on just wearing whatever I wanted to in life. But he used to make me like some of the craziest outfits back in the day. But yeah, I just remember walking up, you know what I'm saying, like walking up to the spot. And I think that was when I first realized that I was, I guess, on my way to becoming famous. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Or infamous, depends on who you ask. But
so, okay, on that note, I got to tell the people that we're right now sitting with Kardinal Offishall.
We are.
A man who has impacted Toronto, Canada, the globe, record labels, Juno winner multiple times, a man who's essentially impacted our culture, the way we listen to music. You rep Toronto, you really push the scene out, you support other artists. I see it all the time. Kardinal, welcome to the Gents Talk Pod.
Welcome.
Gentlemen, it is my pleasure.
Thank you.
Oh, there's another side there.
I was going to say, here's the question. I know it's the Gents Pod, but are you guys really gentlemen? That's the real question.
Just depends on the time of day, I guess.
depends on your definition, I guess. I would assume that on most times I am.
Okay.
Nobody is all things at all times.
That's true. Yeah. This is very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Very dope.
Are you a gentleman?
Are you a gentleman? Yeah.
I know you're a gallus, because gallus department. But are you a gentleman? Because a lot of
I think so.
Yeah, you can be gallus and a gentleman.
I think so. I mean, it depends on like the same thing, your definition of a gallus and and as a gentleman. A gallus to me just means you can get the girls. Doesn't mean that you always need to get them, but it means that you have the option and the ability. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's the same with being a gentleman. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm sure we can't curse on this, but
you
like,
can.
Of course.
Well, it's one of those ones like, excuse me, to me, like if you're a pussy, well, I'm not going to be a gentleman to you, but if you're cool, like that's my default. You know what I'm saying? Like my default is to always be a good guy.
And I think that's important. And I think that gets lost a lot of times. Like, I think people think anyone who's achieved any measure of success and notoriety is not going to be a nice person.
Most of them aren't.
That's the thing.
Listen, let me tell you,
never meet your heroes.
Bro, it's the worst. I exist in an industry that, like, I love what comes with it in terms of me being able to live out my wildest dreams and support my family based on my passions. That's it's an incredible blessing, like, you know what I mean? Like, without question. The only thing is that my industry on a whole is just, it's lawless. It's like the wild, wild west, and they refuse to, they kind of refuse to create an environment that is just, that is super positive. Like, it's, you know, behind the scenes, like it's a terrible business, you know what I'm saying, in terms of the business aspect of it. Sure, it allows for a lot of people to get rich, but the interesting thing is at what cost. There's so many artists that are not even just artists, but people within the entertainment industry. You hear it all the time, people that become you know, addicted to alcohol, to drugs, people that have depression, anxiety, so many different things, and it's because it is the best and the worst place to exist. So for me, you know, to be able to be in it all this time and still have like a gentleman's disposition, like it doesn't, listen, it's not something that I take for granted at all, because there's a lot of people that just mentally, they're not strong enough for it. And that's a reality that a lot of people don't understand. You might have the gift, but there's so much more to it than your gift. Like, you have to be able to to navigate a typically unforgiving industry. You know what I mean? Like when you think about artists, the other thing is that there are just a handful of people that are able to have a long-term career. This industry is one that they'll chew you up and spit you out in a second. And if you're not able to navigate, you're not able to reinvent yourself, you're not able to, be self-motivated, like it's a very unforgiving industry. Like I meet accountants all the time and it's like 2 + 2 is always going to be 4. You know what I'm saying? Like, sure, tax laws will change and there'll be certain things that will develop that they'll learn and they're like, okay, cool, duly noted. And, they're just back to their regular mode of operations, to where it's like the entertainment industry at any given time can shift based on, what is in, what's cool, what's acceptable, what the trends are, you know what I mean? And I think for me, it's a more risky place to exist, but I want to be one of those people that are not living in a reactive space to where I'm just reacting to whatever those trends are. I'm part of the people that are always like 10 steps ahead. And it's only risky because the thing is, it's like I talk about visionaries and I say, if we were all visionaries, there would be nothing special about it. Like if everybody could see what it is that I see, then there would be nothing special within me, because you would have been able to do it, or you would have been able to do it, or anybody else. But when you're a visionary, a lot of times you can see way, way, way down that journey, way down that path. And you just kind of have to hold the faith that eventually people will catch up and understand and see what you're seeing. But that's kind of like the double-edged sword, you know what I'm saying? Part of the, I'll never say the curse, but it's the gift and the lesson, you know what I'm saying?
How did you navigate all that for so long?
You always have to be in you got to look at life, look at your career, look at the journey as ever evolving, and never think that you know what it is. And you can apply that to whatever. So, insert here. Because the minute that you're like, oh, I know how this works, when it changes, you're screwed. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like, it's being able to be malleable. It's able to, you know what I mean? To be fluid and figure out like how you move with the times, but how you retain a unique perspective and looking at everything with a particular lens. Because I think what happens is, sometimes even when people see success, they're like, okay, well, I've seen the success, so I know what that formula is. But people don't understand that thing that people love today, they'll hate tomorrow. So you then got to figure out, okay, what is it? What are the elements of that success that I can apply to my next move? You know what I mean? So I look at it the same way in terms of like, the television space is a totally, when I say totally foreign, like obviously I've been doing TV shows, interviews, performances, whatever for decades. But being a part of the TV industry is much different than just being a musical guest. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there are different politics to navigate. There are anything you can think of, from compensation to, trying to figure out, okay, what does this look like? Because like for music, you do a song, and if you have an incredible song, that song can live in perpetuity. It's just going to be out there forever. But, with a show, sometimes there could be a hard stop. Like you guys had great success. Okay, cool. We're not renewing.
Yeah.
And that's it. You feel what I'm saying? Like that's it. So it's a lot of learning. But for me, I never look at myself, no matter all the different things that I've been able to experience, accomplish, all the different contributions that I've made. I don't know. I just think the way that I look at things is, it's like I'm a forever student. You know what I'm saying? Like,
always be learning.
Yeah. There's a quote, the man who knows everything knows that he knows nothing at all.
Yeah.
Something like that. But that's the realest, you know what I mean? Like that's the realest thing ever. I think the minute that you think you know everything, that's when life stops. So it's like, for me, it's always being in a position to where you always gotta leave yourself open, you know what I mean, to say, well, you know what, maybe as sometimes you're convicted about something. You're like, nah, this is the thing, this is the way. But you always, I'll give you an example. Pardon me, there was a new artist that I was working with. Don't ask, super long story, but Idris Elba was involved in it. And he was to be the executive producer for the artist album. So we had done a video shoot with Hype Williams, who's a fucking legend, you know what I'm saying? Like, worked with the biggest and the best of all time. And, you know, it was a shot in the dark, but I reached out to Hype, and Hype was like, yeah, you know, like, he loved the song, and he had this crazy vision, and he's like, yeah, I'll work with the artist. And so anyways, we shot the video with Hype, and the video came back. It wasn't, never really spoken about this in public before, but like, the video, I was on the fence. I was like, this is either really shit or this is really dope. And
it's a wild spectrum, to be honest.
Yeah. And one of the guys, shout out to Mark Nabetta, that I was working with, who was the creative director, he's like, nah, this is trash. And I think I got defensive because, you know what I'm saying, it's like, when you're an artist and you're working with art, like, it's so like, it's super personal, you know what I mean? And it's like,
it's a part of you.
It is. And even when you're working with a different artist, the thing is, you kind of like, you look at that journey as your own or a part of it, you know what I mean? Because you're working with this person to create their legacy and create something incredible for them. So you know what I mean? Like, you hug it, you hold it close. And it's interesting because I remember, you know, we got into this argument or whatever, and I was like, all right. Anyways, then the following day I spoke to Idris, and he's like, bruv, this is shit. He's like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, we had the whole conversation about it, and I went back to Mark and I was like, bro, you know, you were right. Yeah. And I'm glad that even though we had, you know, it is what it is, like, within, you know, doesn't matter, like, with any type of art, you're always going to have, you know, differing opinions and so forth. It's just like, I don't know, that's part of the unpredictable part of the music game and art in general, is you just never know. Like, sometimes people think they have hit records and they put it out and it has all the elements, and it falls flat because of various things, the way that it was put out, the timing, right. You know, does it resonate with where we are within society? That's another big thing. And I say all that to say, like, you have to be open to constructive criticism. And I think constructive criticism gets lost in today's society because we're just always tearing each other down. Yeah. Like,
and that seems to be more prevalent in the music industry.
Oh my God, it's the worst. You know what I'm saying? Like, people think that their comments are constructive criticism. Nah, bro, that's you're a full hater. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's not constructive.
And then being able to, like, give constructive criticism.
Yeah, people think just because you're able to express your opinion that it means that you should. Yeah, and that's a big difference. Like, just because I have an opinion on something doesn't mean that I should always express it. Like,
it doesn't always mean that your opinion is correct.
Because it's an opinion.
You tell that to everybody on social media, yo. Like,
do you pay attention to the comments?
It's a wild place. My comments aren't that bad, to be honest. Okay. If I'm being completely honest, like, I've never been a massive social media guy. Like, it's weird. You know how J. Cole has that joint Middle Child? Like, that's how I often feel, because I existed for a good amount of time before the internet and social media, and I know what it's like to kind of like be introduced to that world, and now we're in a space where everything is social media. Yeah. So I kind of know, you know, those three very distinct times. Like, I know what it feels like. And I think if you're young and you're coming up in the world now, it just kind of feels like, sorry, this is a CEO of Def Jam. That's the only reason why keeping my phone on is because I'm like,
the CEO of Def Jam calls.
In case there's a fire, I'm like, oh shit. But yeah, like, you know, for me, if I had the opportunity, like if somebody's like, all right, yo, we're gonna do away with social media, or we're gonna keep it, wipe that shit in a minute.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. If you wipe that in this hypothetical realm, how are artists getting their music out? Because you're seeing a lot of that happen.
The way there's a lot more work. I think the reason why people wouldn't want to get rid of it is because there's such a you know how much heavy lifting it was to become a star. It's actually a good point that you brought up that you bring up, because unfortunately I don't think we are ever going to see real superstars exist. I had a conversation with my wife the other day, because obviously the world went ballistic when they announced the Beyonce tickets or whatever. And she's like, yo, listen, like this might be the last of its kind that we see. And I was like, what are you talking about, yo? But then I was thinking about it, and I was having some conversations with, some other friends that are in the business. And it's like, yeah, the circumstances under which certain superstars were created and built doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
We have way too much access right now. There's no mystique.
Yeah, there's no mystery.
But on top of that, even the demand is different. We live at a time now where, as massive as Beyonce is, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that her streaming is going to go well just because she's Beyonce. Same thing with Rihanna or any other, Drake, like anybody else. You know what I'm saying? There was a time where, of course, they're going to do better, like comparatively they'll do better than your average person, but it's no longer that thing to where it's like think about like I don't like bringing his name up, but think about like when Kanye West and 50 Cent had that remember that whole battle to see who was going to sell more in the first week and all that. That's all done. And people don't, like, artists also don't, they're never going to understand what it's like to have people purchase your music. And that is so significant, and it's something that we don't talk about almost at all within the media. But what you have to think about is, like, right now what you're doing is you're fighting for people's time as opposed to their money, and there's a massive difference between the two. If years ago you wanted to buy a Kardinal album, you would have had to say, all right, cool, I have X amount of money that I put aside this week for entertainment purposes. So if I want to take a girl to the movies, if I want to buy a new pair of jeans or a new pair of J's, and I want to buy music, like, all these things are things that, like, you know what I mean, that you put into your thought process, and you're like, all right, cool, I'm going to go to wherever you live. I'm going to go to HMV, or I'm going to go to Tower Records or whatever, but I'm going to buy a CD.
Yeah.
You had to take your ass on the bus or get in your car,
go to the mall,
go all the way there, walk into the place, look for it, find it, go to the cash register, buy it, then have to peel off the plastic, and then either put it in your car, or you would have had to wait till you get home, whatever.
Yeah.
But that whole process, you have a much better relationship with music as a product than you do now, to where it's like, it's so disposable. If I'm like, yo, bro, did you hear the new whomever? You literally, it takes this long. Hold on. What's his name? Da-da-da-da-da-da. You listen to it, and they're like, yeah, this is dope. Or it sucks.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's the transaction. The other thing is that you also have a lot of artists who are celebrating with the fact that they have X amount of streams. What you don't understand, or what a lot of people don't really take into account, is the fact that a lot of those streams are from people that think you suck. And it happens all the time. Think about it like this. If you're like, yo, this guy's trash. What? He came out with this song. It's so whack. You got to check it out. All right, hold on. You go to Spotify and you stream it. That same stream from that person that hates you is lumped in with everything else. So when you have 1 billion streams, depending on the artist that you are, 500 million of those could be people laughing at you that are like, yo, this is so trash. You got to check it out. As opposed to, like I said, purchasing actual CDs or vinyl or cassettes or whatever, haters aren't going to go to the store and buy your music to check it out. You feel what I'm saying? And this is like, people are not even really like peeling back the layers to understand the psychology of what's happening within music right now. You know what I mean? So a lot of times you have these lackluster artists that are like, yeah, look at what I'm streaming. And I'm like, bro, you don't understand. Like, it's just novelty. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're being clowned all over the internet, so people are checking you out. But a couple months from now, like, it's a wrap. So there's this massive shift that is happening. But the thing is, what's so interesting is it's happening in silos. So people don't, I don't even know if they care, but it's like, you know, to them, they're like, oh, shoot, I can pay $10 a month and have access to all the music in the world. This is incredible. But it's the same way that now music is being devalued little by little by little by little. So it's not a big thing.
Is there a solution to any of this in your mind?
Well, it depends
Outside
on
of
who, well, that's the thing
social
is, in order for there to be a solution, that's indicating that you think there's a problem. So depending on who you are, it's not necessarily a problem. There's some people that love it because if you're an up and coming artist and you want to get your music out there, that's the thing is, like, I never put a value or a price on my demo tape. I just wanted people to hear it. Mm-hmm. But now in this day and age, if you're a new artist, putting your song up on, you know, up on whatever DSP, that is your demo tape because you want to be discovered. You want for people to hear you. So for them, they're like, oh, this is incredible because now as many people as possible can hear my music. The only thing is, it's like where we are able to properly monetize our talents or be compensated is within the world of experiential things, which is primarily concerts. You know what I mean?
What if I like somebody's song or I favorite to put it on my playlist, that doesn't like help the artist at all?
Define help.
In the terms of count towards, I guess, more, because you said like the streams doesn't matter if you like them or don't like them. So like if you were to like it, maybe that'd give them an extra stream or something as a solution. No.
So basically what I meant is that like before, like if you heard that, making it up, who's your favorite artist these days? Even that question doesn't really make sense because we listen to there's so many artists.
I just went through like 4 or 5.
Yeah, before you couldn't even
know.
listen to as many artists at the same time.
Yeah, before, like, that's the thing is, before, like, if you were, or I'm making it up and just keeping it hip hop, if you were a Ludacris fan, like you're a die-hard Ludacris fan because there weren't that many, you know what I mean? There weren't that many people that were out that were getting that type of look, that were getting that type of support, whatever.
Or that airtime on television, because that's really where you got most of your content. All of the above.
So it's like, when you think about streaming, you're talking about like or dislike. That's the thing is, it's like, it doesn't really matter because there's a lot of things that I've streamed, but I'm like, this is trash. You know what I'm saying? Or it's like, if we ever wanted to, like, me and my boys, if we're, you know, say we're having a Domino's night at the crib or whatever it is, and it's like we wanted to play something for a joke, still that same joke counts as a stream. You know what I'm saying? But here's the thing, from if you're a successful artist, it's tough because it's like, still to this day, I'm still like, yeah, how many streams is it before the record goes gold? And it's, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, even how you get paid from the streams is something that artists are still fighting for, because, and I'm making up the numbers, so don't hold me to the numbers, but I'm just trying to explain so you can understand the context. If you have a radio hit, like, I'm making it up, but say like when Dangerous came out, that was like my first massive smash, global whatever. Say, just for the conversation, that every time you heard it on the radio, that would be the equivalent to like 50 cents or 75 cents. So if you have a song where, like Dangerous, to where you go to Turkey, you go to Japan, you go to Mexico, you go to wherever, and you're hearing this song on the radio and it's playing all day, every day, that artist is going to be compensated tremendously. Like, they're like, if you have a worldwide hit and it's on radio around the world, just know that person's making a lot of money. Not the same for streaming. You know what I'm saying? You could have a massive streaming hit. You're not going to even see 50% of the money that you would if this were years ago, when the biggest vehicle was the radio. So it's like, we a lot of
There's a
times
trade-off.
now we gotta. That's why you have these artists that are forced to do so many different things, because compensation is a lot different. What people don't understand is it's like sometimes making it up. Who's a mysterious figure? D'Angelo would make an album like once every 5 years. But the thing is, when his album does well, he would be able to chill for a few years, you know what I'm saying? And be out of the public eye, live his life. And, you know, his fans would be like, damn, where's D'Angelo? What's going on? Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, it would be a treat for us. Like, if we're like, oh shit, like D'Angelo's coming to town, like it's something that you savored. It's something that's crazy. Like it's something that meant something to you. But now it's like, it doesn't matter how big of an artist you are, you have to do so many different things, because that's the only way to remain, I hate the word, but people use it over and over again, is to be relevant. And today, I guess the definition or how relevance applies to the music industry or entertainment is to have several different touch points. You know what I mean? It can't just be that, you know, on Spotify you're on my favorite playlist, or you know, your song is going crazy on TikTok. Now I also have to see you in a magazine. Now you got to do a podcast. Now you got to do like all these things all the time, and it doesn't give the artist enough, in my opinion. It usually doesn't give the artist the same amount of time to be an artist and to create, because they're constantly having to like feed the public, because now we consume at such a high rate. Like it's like 2 months we're like, yo, where's the new project? I'm like, yo, I just put one out. You know what I mean? Like I gotta live, like most artists have to live life so that they can actually write about something. You know what I mean? True. Like here's if I'm dropping 6 projects this year alone, right? Say project number 1, I'm writing about family. I'm writing about, you know, the second one is just whatever. I'm just wilding out just on some narcissistic shit. You know what I mean? Just dropping bars. The third one is about love. The fourth, like, what am I going to write about next year? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, well, what did you experience? I didn't experience anything, because I've been on a promo trip this entire year trying to promote all these projects. You feel what I'm saying? Before, for us, it used to be a scenario to where like you work towards that big drop, that big, you know what I mean? That big album, you know, the whatever it is. You do that, and it's what we used to call the album cycle. You know what I'm saying? It's like you have the album, you put out a certain amount of singles to support the album. You typically would go on tour, so forth and so forth. And then after the tour, cool, you're out of your album cycle. Now you're taking a break. You're going to live life for a little bit, figure out what that next album is going to be about. That, what used to be like, you know, I don't know, 2 years maybe 3 if you stretch it. Now it's like literally people have to drop once a year. You know what I mean? And that's just what it feels like, or else people are like, oh, you're gone away too long. Think about it like this. I heard it the other day and I was like, wow, that's so wild. When DMX dropped 2 albums in 1 year, and they called it the year of the dog or whatever, that was a big deal, because nobody did that. Nobody dropped 2 projects in 1 year. Like people are like, yo, this is insane. He dropped 2 successful projects in 1 year. Literally, people are dropping like 4 projects in 1 year sometimes, you know, in 2023. So it's just wild how the shift is happening in entertainment. But listen, it is difficult behind the scenes. It is difficult for a lot of artists to keep up.
So let me ask you a question. A little earlier, you mentioned how the space itself in the music industry doesn't necessarily cultivate a positive environment for artists. How does that narrative get changed? How does that move in the right direction? Is this the record labels have to do something? Is it just the community of artists that have to do something? Is it the middle? Everybody's
got to work together on it. I don't think there's one entity that's necessarily solely responsible. I hope that something bad doesn't have to happen before people change the way that they think about what it is that they're doing. Because have you guys ever spent time looking at the comments at any of your favorite artists? Like, they're really looking in the comments?
They're terrible.
is crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
People
like
are vile online.
It's insane.
they really are. And it's like, especially depending on the type of artist that you are, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And it's like, it's the most bizarre thing to where I'm just like, I don't personally get it, because I really couldn't see myself, like, if I was just a regular civilian or whatever, like, just going to somebody's page and being like, you suck, you're trash, your kids are ugly. Like, people say the worst things.
The craziest thing, I think, is when you see, let's say somebody says something about Beyonce, and that you go to that famous person's Instagram, and the first comment has nothing to do with anything. People just
and they start feeding on each other.
just shitting on that person, just because that person is like they probably don't even know that person is. They go follow that person now, go and comment on their stuff, just vile shit.
It's it's wild out there.
Defending on behalf, that was probably just a misunderstanding in the first place.
Yeah, like it is super, super wild. And that's why, like, you know, if you go to Drake's page right now, I don't know what filter thing he has on it, but if you look at his comments, he did it in a way to where just the average person can't comment under his page anymore. So he probably at some point in time said, yo, fuck this. You know what I mean? Because we don't look at these people as just as humans, but these guys, like, nobody's skin is that thick.
Yeah.
Nobody's skin is that thick. And, you know, we live in times where, never mind being an entertainer, but just the average person, like, think about all the things that we just lived through, literally, like, you know, during that whole, the pandemic, or, you know, post George Floyd and all these different things. Like, these were times that were so difficult for so many people. Like, a lot of people went through various mental health issues, you know what I mean? From severe anxiety, depression, like, the list goes on, you know what I mean? And that's just for your average person.
A lot of men took their lives in the last couple of years.
Yeah, like, suicide rates going up. Like, there's a lot of wild things that happen in society. Now, as gentlemen, you know what I mean, as people, we're like, okay, cool, like, we have to adjust our lives and figure out how to deal with that. And a lot of us did it in various ways, whether it's excuse me, relying more on community or family, or seeing therapists, or educating ourselves. Whatever it is, we figured out ways to get through it. Now, think about that, except that, and a lot of people, maybe, I don't want to keep saying a lot of people, but not everybody has access to what it's like to be a part of the artist community, or be a part of the celebrity community, or what have you. Now, yes, a lot of people are like, oh, cry me a river on your $1 million pillows or whatever. But the reality is that a lot of these people don't get to enjoy some of the simple things, you know what I'm saying, that regular people do. You know what I mean? Like, say your grandmother lives in the projects, and it's like, yo, I'm going to go see my grandmother. You know what I mean? It's a whole thing for somebody just to want to spend time with their family. And sometimes, you know, I constantly explain this to my family, because I hope that they get it now. But it's like, somebody's like, yeah, you know, whatever, just meet me at Fortino's. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I want to be bothered at Fortino's today. You know what I mean? Because there's times where I'm like, you know,
sometimes you just
I'm buying sanitary products for my wife's monthly or something. So you have your hand on a box of pads, and there's a guy that's like, "Oh my God, yo, Cardinal, what's up? Blah, blah, blah. Yo, what are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm buying pads." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even I've had to explain, even to my own mom, like, it's very difficult for somebody that's never led that life to understand what it's like. You can't do anything without the possibility of somebody knowing who you are. And that is, it's costly. There is a price to pay, but for me, like, the balance, it always works out. The minute that the balance is unhealthy, that's when I have to reassess what I'm doing in life. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, like, you know, some of my best friends, we'll go out to dinner or whatever, and we're having a great time. But then somebody may interrupt us for dinner, or, you may be having a moment in your real life where something horrible might have happened and you're crying, and you can't just be a dude that's crying in his car, or that, you know what I mean, just got the worst news ever and wants to take a minute to himself. You then have to put on this face, because if you tell somebody, yo, fuck off, I'm not in the mood right now, all of a sudden, Cardinal's a fucking asshole.
And that news will travel a lot faster.
Yeah. So it's like, it's just, you know.
Do you think there's enough support mechanisms, formal, informal, for men in the music industry?
No, not even for men or women. I think it would be so incredible. The same way that there are, there are some industries that did start to incorporate having therapy be part of their benefits, and having in-house therapists and things of that nature, people that you can talk to. And I think right now there's nothing in place, like, and there's not even a dentist. Like, think about it like this. If you sign today, and listen, shout out to the world famous Def Jam, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a great place to work at, but I'm just talking in being very general. Yeah. Like, when you sign your deal, it's not like there's a health plan that goes along with it. You feel what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You kind of have to hopefully figure this stuff out on your own. Never mind taking care of your mental health, but so many things we need to have access to as men, for sure. But it's like financial literacy. Like, what is it that you do with your finances once you have them? You know what I mean? Like, how do you retain it?
And that's a slippery slope, because it comes in droves, and then all of a sudden you see a lot of artists years later claiming bankruptcy. You know, they've spent too much money, and
if you don't know what to do with the money, the next thing you know, you get $1 million on you, and it's
that's the thing, is there's some people that get $1 million and think they actually have $1 million, not knowing that you probably only have 564,000. You know what I mean? So it's like, you're here like, okay, I'm gonna buy this house for my mom, I'm gonna do this, and then all of a sudden the tax man is like, okay, cool, I need my 470 something thousand now. And you're like, what? You know what I mean? Like, trust me, listen, I've been through it myself. Like, I had to learn many moons ago, but I had to learn about even something as basic. And I try and mentor a lot of the kids that I'm working with now. Like, I didn't even know what it was, the difference between having an incorporation and being a self-proprietor. You know what I'm saying? It's like the tax breaks you get, the things you can write off, this, that, and the next thing. Like, none of these things were explained to me. And, you know, my parents, you know, God bless my, you know, rest my dad's soul and big up my mom, but they're coming from Jamaica. Just coming here and finding a better life for us, that was the goal. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So when these aren't necessarily things that I learned from them, because A, nobody taught them, and B, you know, they never passed a certain tax bracket, so they didn't even understand what it was like to make a certain amount of money. So it's funny, because I said to the other day during the pandemic, me and my mom had our first conversation about like finances and things of that nature, and I'm like, yo, why didn't you teach me this when I was mad young? You know how much money I wasted when I was younger? But again, I think that's why I feel great to be in the position that I'm in, because it's like, whatever I learn, I try and pass on to these up and coming artists that are coming up now, because just even where to put your money, like, you know, I invested in a bunch of land, and I didn't understand the importance of real estate, you know what I'm saying? And knowing how valuable land can be, and knowing that there's a finite amount of land on this earth, no matter how many people populate it, you know what I'm saying? It's like, the value is going to go up for all intents and purposes, even though the market will change. Generally speaking, there's a finite amount of land, so purchase yours, because there's not going to be, you know, in 20, 30, 40 years from now, there's not going to be that amount of land. And we have these conversations with, you know, sometimes the kids, sorry if I'm calling you guys kids. Sometimes the younger artists will, you know, they'll come up to the crib and they'll be like, yo, this is crazy. All this land is yours. I'm like, yeah, but if I knew about this 15 years ago, I probably could have had like 3 or 4 of these properties. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But, you know, at the end of the day, I feel like you learn everything that you learn at a very specific time. And I'm, you know, just my belief system, I feel like God there's a reason why he wanted me to learn everything at the time that I did in the way that I did. You know what I mean? So I just feel supremely blessed. And what's incredible is that it just feels like he's just starting to open doors for me, as wild as it sounds. Like, you know, the other day I did, I hosted something for TIFF for their Black History Month celebration, and did this whole campaign with them. Like, they have all these, like, most of my favorite movies from the 90s, they did this whole series, you know what I mean, called Perpetrating Realism. So they had everything from like Boys in the Hood, Set It Off, New Jack City, Love Jones, House Party, like all the dope movies. So what we did was we did this interview that will play before each of the movies, you know what I'm saying? So they interviewed me, and we had this conversation before the movie starts, but I did one in person the other day. And here's where I'm going with this. So before she introduced me, or before I took the stage, she was introducing me, and she was just listing off all the things. And I was like, it's like, yo, that's wild. Like, there's so many things that like I forget. And, you know, one of my best friends was like, you performed for Nelson Mandela? I was like,
oh no, I didn't even know that.
As a kid,
yeah. I mean,
how was that?
So, you know what? With all due respect, it's like, how was that? Is a question that you say like, yo, you performed at the most in stage. Like, how was that? For Nelson Mandela, he's somebody that I literally thought I would only see in a history book.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, this is this person that impacted the globe like nobody else has in history, and he was in jail for 27 years. And then you're like, what? They're going to release him? Already bananas. Yeah. What? He's coming to Canada? Again, already incredible. But then they're like, and they selected you to perform. I was like 14 or 13 or something. Like, it was, listen, to this day, there's only a handful of people that could say that they performed for Nelson Mandela. And especially like when he was just released. Yeah. Like, he was still married to Winnie Mandela at the time. Like, I mean, this is fresh out. And, you know, as a kid performing for somebody that you've read about, you know, your whole life. Because think about it, like at that time, whatever I was, 13 or 14, that was only half of his jail stint. You know what I mean? Like, he was in jail double my existence on the planet. So as you're reading this, it's I don't know, it's not the same, but it's like, imagine your whole life you read about Albert Einstein, and they're like, yo, he's coming to your school. Like, how crazy that is. So, I mean, you know, performing for Mandela, you know, I performed for the royal family in London before. So many just legendary like, I ran with the Olympic torch, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have the Olympic torch at the crib with...
Oh, you got to keep it?
Yeah, although I did have to pay for it. But like, you know, that smoke is from that eternal flame that has never been put out, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I have the soot on the actual torch. Like, I did a lot of things in my life where it's like, when people, like, if you were to look at it on just a spreadsheet and you're like, yo, that's wild, you know what I mean? Like,
what a life. Just
some of the craziest things. But I truly feel like where I'm at right now, like, it feels like the door is just opening, and that's an intense but such an incredibly blessed position to be in. But I think, if I'm being honest, it's because maybe the feeling is like that because the last few years taught me to really live with purpose, to live in a constant state of gratitude, and make sure that I'm always very clear with what my intentions are and what I want them to be. And I think purposeful living is exponentially more gratifying than just chasing a check or chasing fame or any other that dumb shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, the way the world looks different when you look at it through that lens. And every day becomes the most incredible day when you realize, like, you have you have the opportunity to, instead of I have to. You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody's like, yo, what are you doing? I got to do this podcast. No, I have the opportunity to do this podcast today. You know what I mean? Yo, what are you doing today? Oh man, I have to take this 12-hour flight to Europe to go check this artist out. No, I get to go to Europe and check that artist out or whatever it is. And I think even with language, I became such a stickler for language. Like I want to make sure that everything coming out of my mouth is purposeful and I'm looking at it the right way, because I don't ever want to, even with all the things that we're talking about, and yes, although there is a lot of negativity within the entertainment industry, it is what it is in terms of sometimes you have to understand the way that something is currently, but it doesn't mean that it has to stay like that. It doesn't mean that, all the negativity that we're talking about, that is seems like it gets all the attention within the media these days and within social media and all the rest of it. It doesn't mean that it has to stay like that forever. So the fun part is like, all right, how are you going to change things? How are you going to add more value to the music industry so that it doesn't seem so disposable? What are the different things that you can contribute so that you can change? And that's the thing is, I've seen people that have what seem like outlandish ideas. I've seen them execute, and all of a sudden the industry does change. You think that, what year are we in? 15, let's go back 20 years ago. You think that at 20 years ago, I would have said to you, yo, so there's an actor on Degrassi and he's going to be the number one, not rapper, but he's going to be the number one artist in the world. If I said that 20 years ago,
even watching the show, like, oh yeah, this guy,
you know what I mean?
No way.
No way. There's no way. And not even to go in it, because it's been spoken about several times, but I'm telling you, like, even when I told Akon about Drake, and he was like, sure, guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, yo, I love Cardi, but he's out of his mind. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but a lot of things that Drake ushered in, even like him tapping into his emotions, not just on one song, but that's what his identity was. Because remember, when he came in, he was the guy that, like, hip hop was very, very testosterone driven and hyper masculine and that whole nine. And he really ushered in a whole generation of artists that were now able to start like talking more about their feelings, you know what I'm saying? And, whatever they called it, emo rap or whatever, but it's bigger than that. You know what I'm saying? Like he literally changed the way of how people viewed hip hop and how hip hop viewed itself. Cause to that, up to then, it was created because, listen, the reality is that in the Bronx, like, there was a lot of gangbanging that was going on. There was a lot of crime and, hip hop was a form of escapism at the time from all those crazy things that were happening. It's a way that people came together, and that's why, it used to be in those early days in the 80s or the 70s even, it was peace, unity, love, and having fun, because that was a way for our community to be able to celebrate and get away from the everyday life in the ghetto and all the crazy things that were happening.
Do you think hip hop today still has a problem with masculinity in the way it
I don't think so. I think there's enough of a balance.
Okay.
Yes, like hip hop has a lot of problems. I think what's dope is that for everything that I may personally not love about it, the thing that I do love, there's enough of that to go around. Yeah. So if I'm like, oh man, I don't want to listen to these guys today, like every song, sometimes within the mainstream, it just feels like everybody's killing each other. Like way more than back in the day. Because people were like, yeah, well, Biggie and Tupac actually killed each other. I'm like, yeah, I hear you. But at the time, that was an anomaly. It wasn't
commonplace.
It wasn't commonplace. But like almost every song, it's about somebody's op. Like somebody's op is shooting somebody, or I'm going to whatever. Like we hear that a lot. But I think for all of that type of music that you hear, there is something else that you can listen that will counterbalance that. You know what I mean? So I think it's a great time if you want to do the work. I think what it is before, there used to be, what's the easiest way that I can say it? In this country, if you think about Canada, if you made it onto Rap City, that meant that you were somewhere within your career.
Yeah.
If you're able to make it onto Master T's show, that means you're able to be somewhere else. When you made it to the random crossover mainstream thing, like Much on Demand or whatever, that just has all genres, and you made it onto that, that meant that you were really doing something. You know what I mean? Like there were levels, there were things that you could actually point to and be like, oh man, like his song must really be doing well, or else they wouldn't put him on that. We don't have that anymore. And I remember it was like, I'm glad that I got to experience that, even in the States, you know what I'm saying? Like even like getting to be on like TRL or 106 in Park and all those things like that, those were the indicators. In this day and age, it's like there are so many different platforms that there is, I don't think the indicators are as obvious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For sure, like, yeah, somebody's blowing up crazy on TikTok. That is definitely an indicator of today. Or, you know, you streaming 1 million streams a day. That is a certain indicator, but we don't have, we don't have as many of the touch points in between. And I think even for artist development and artist growth, I think those things are important because there's something for you to look forward to. You know what I'm saying? There's like, oh man, I got to keep my eyes on that. I know the minute that I'm able to do such and such a show, that, you know, that means I made it, or, you know, whatever it is. But there's people that are wildly successful and are streaming tens and hundreds of millions. Doesn't necessarily mean that anybody's going to know you. And going back to something that we spoke about a while ago, unfortunately, that superstar is becoming more and more difficult to nurture and to help create, because as society, we're not a monolithic society or monocultural as much as we were like 15 years ago. You know what I mean? Like there was a time when it's like, oh shit, Watch the Throne is coming out today, so everybody, like, we're, you know what I mean, we're all in anticipation, like waiting for Watch the Throne to come out, and then the next day we all have conversations about it, whether it's at school, the water cooler, playing basketball at the center, wherever you at, we are all talking about it at the same time, because that's the way that entertainment used to work. There were these monocultural moments when Michael Jackson, you know, moonwalked on that anniversary episode of the show, which one was it? I can't remember if it was one, like the American Music Awards, one of them. Yeah. But when he did that moonwalk, we all saw it at the same time. When the Thriller video came out, we all watched it at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So
how we just get content like just thrown at you from every direction
at all times. Here's the thing: if I said to you guys, "Yo, did you guys hear my new song that dropped last week?" Both of you could be like, "I didn't know that. I didn't know you dropped a song last week." And the thing is, there's no way right now for you guys to, in your minds, be able to verify if what I'm saying is a pile of shit or if I'm being serious. And that's because it's so easy for us to miss things. Like there are superstars that drop albums. I'm like, when did this album come out? I had no idea. But that's where we are at in entertainment, and that's why for me and what it is that I'm doing, it's like it is the wild, wild west. But it's like, as long as you got the guns and you got the ammunition, you know, it's a place that could have a great payoff if you are that person that is willing to take the risk, if you are that person that has a vision, if you are that person that is willing to take the good with the bad and knowing that there is a specific goal in mind, then it's a amazing time to live, because as much as it seems like things are all over the place, there is also opportunity for the incredible things to see significant growth in a very short amount of time. And I think that's the stuff that's exciting.
The appointment with Def Jam, that seems to give you what sounds like, just listening to you talk, it seems to be a place or a space that's going to give you the platform to sort of build your vision for what the music industry could be. Yeah,
I think so. I think what it is, and what I, shout out to Tunji and shout out to Latrice. What I love is that there was a mutual respect. Before I went to Def Jam, unlike most, I had the opportunity to, shout out to the good folks at the Universal Music Group. Well, maybe they heard us talking. For all those that can't see, I just got a text from them. But they were like, "Yo, you know, the higher ups at Universal Music Group in the States, they're like, yo, you know, where do you see yourself?" Because I felt like I had outgrown Canada at the time, and I was like, yo, Def Jam seems like the place. You know what I mean? Like Tunji, at the time, Tunji was just about to start as the CEO. And it's funny because Tunji was our intern when Dangerous came out at Interscope. You know what I'm saying? So it's like somebody, you know, you hear about those people that make it from the mailroom to the C-suite. Like, it's a literal example of somebody that like worked his way up within this industry. And, you know, he's responsible for everybody from Khalid, SZA, Bryson Tiller, like, you know, WizKid. Like, he just had a string of like far more than a dozen acts that broke worldwide. Right. So he became the CEO of Def Jam, and I'm like, yo, listen, like, the Def Jam brand has managed somehow to survive and still be, like, just what it represents within culture, within music, within entertainment. Being able to be a part of that legacy is an incredible opportunity. And then being able to work together with Tunji that has impeccable taste, and Latrice that's like, yo, she's in them streets, really. You know what I mean? Like, she knows everybody. Pardon me. They announced it yesterday, and she's a big part of the reason why DJ Khaled, you know, brought his We the Best label over to Def Jam. You know, working with those two in the time that we're in now, like, it is an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. You know what I mean? And what I love is that not only do we have the resources, but definitely have the support to go after the biggest and the best. And the thing is that Tunji also knows that, just based on my history and my legacy, that, you know, I either have different networks globally, or the other cool thing is that people know me because of, you know, all that I've done throughout the years within music. You know what I mean? So it's like talking to somebody in Italy, I may have never met them before, but they're well aware of who I am, you know what I'm saying, just based on the music that I've done and all the different things that happen. And I think that's why it's a perfect storm right now with everything that's going on. Like, it feels like, I know it's very cliche and corny to say, but it really does feel like it is my dream job, because I'm just having so much fun. You know what I'm saying? And, awesome. And it's a great time. It's a lot of work, but it's dope, man. You know what I'm saying? It's just really dope. And I think, you know, on part of my vision board this year was to be brave. You know what I mean? That's part of what I wrote down in big on my vision board, was this year to be brave, but also figuring out ways to increase the give back. You know what I mean? And it's not always philanthropy is not just always about like doing charitable things, or what we perceive in the stereotypical sense when we think about charity. You know what I mean? Sometimes the give back is giving a good word, or, you know, providing that optimism and giving somebody the energy. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that's listening to what we're talking about right now, and they're like, yo, that's dope. I think I could do that. Or somebody that never even thought about maybe being on the executive side. Somebody that's like, yo, maybe I don't want to be a rapper. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I want to be the dude that helps all the rappers in my neighborhood get on, or whatever. Because there's just so many ways to participate.
And they don't think about it that way.
Yeah.
No, that's incredible, man. And on the note of giving back, thank you for giving us your time.
Oh man, this was dope, man. Listen, I love having a civilized conversation.
That's good, but
yeah, no, honestly, this was so cool. I mean, I've grown up listening to your music. It's had an impact on me.
Dope.
And to be able to just sit in a room and chat with you is an honor. It's a privilege, and I appreciate you giving us your time. I appreciate you sharing the stories and the insight.
Well, listen, let's call this part one.
Part one. Let's do that.
Part one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Part two will be, you're
at the Def Jam studio. We'll do part two.
Yeah.
See, that's my vision. That's my vision. See, you gotta roll with it, man. I
like
it.
Word up.
Kardinal, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming through.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes.